Good evening, Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, together with the Presidential Communications Office.
We bring you the latest, widest, and most comprehensive news coverage from the People's Television, IBC, Philippine News Agency, Philippine Information Agency, and Presidential Broadcast Service. I'm Princess Habiba Saripauda.
And I'm Joe Fernandez from Radyo Pilipinas. Welcome to
Balitang Pambansa.
Tonight's headlines. President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. inaugurates the country's first ever mobile soil laboratory that is expected to help farmers in gauging the quality of the soil that they will till. President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. receives the original Murillo Velarde 1734 map, said to be the mother of all Philippine maps. The Department of Justice confirms an agreement between the Philippine and Indonesian governments for the official transfer of Mary Jane Veloso back to the country. President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. signs the Digtas Pinoy Centers Act and the Student Loan Payment Moratorium during Emergencies Disasters Act, showing his administration's commitment to providing relief and assistance to those affected by calamities. 187 POGO workers with no legal documents to work in the country were deported to China. This development is in line with the Chief Executive's directive to ban all POGOs by year-end. Just as a house will not stand for long if it's not built on sturdy ground, social vegetation, greens, and trees fail to bear fruit if it's not seeded or planted in fertile or enriched soil. But with a multi-wheeled truck fitted with the latest tools and instruments to test, analyze, and evaluate soil samples, farmers or agriculture stakeholders are supremely confident on where to sow their seeds and samplings, as we hear the details latest mobile soil laboratory from Charms Espina.
One would think it's just a simple truck, but this 10-wheeler truck is fully equipped with modern tools and facilities designed to analyze soil parameters or the quality of farmers' land across the country. This is the first ever mobile soil laboratory in the country, whose launching the President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. spearheaded earlier today. According to the president, the mobile soil laboratory will serve as a means to help farmers with accurate soil data for effective fertilizer usage, improving and enhancing their production, alongside assisting farmers in enriching their land to create a livelihood that leads to sustainable development.
May kakayahan ang MSL na magsuri ng higit 40 chemical, physical at microbiological parameter ng lupa at tubig. Sa pamamagitan nito, matutulungan ang ating mga magsasaka na masigurong malusog ang kanilang lupa, ang pundasyon ng mas mataas at mas masaganang ani.
It will also teach them new technologies and modern agricultural methods as it functions as a training facility. Furthermore, the laboratory will help develop innovative techniques in agriculture, which, according to the president, will strengthen the agricultural sector and achieve food security in the country.
Hindi lamang ito'y nakakatulong sa ating mga magsasaka. Ang mga datos na makakalap mula rito ay magbibigay din sa ating mga tanggapan na mga impormasyon upang makabuo ng patakaran na sumasailalim sa tunay na pangangailangan ng ating agrikultura at sa bawat lugar dahil iba-iba ang sitwasyon.
Each mobile soil laboratory costs 38 million pesos. An additional 16 units are expected to be inaugurated next year for deployment to various regions across the country.
Layunin ng proyektong ito na bigyan ang ating mga magsasaka ng kaalaman at teknolohiyang magagamit nila na siyentipiko na paraan ng pagsasaka. Patuloy natin susuportahan at palalawakin ang kapasidad ng ating mga kasalukuyang soil laboratory na matagal nang katuwang ng pamahalaan sa pagsusulong sa kaunlaran.
The mobile laboratory is set to travel to Nueva Ecija, Tarlac, Zambales, Bulacan, Pampanga, Aurora, and Bataan. It will stay in each province for about 2 months and provide free services to 10 farmers per day. From PTV, Charms Espina, Balitang Pambansa.
President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. signed into law the Ligtas Pinoy Centers Act and the Student Loan Payment Moratorium During Disasters Emergency Act. The chief executive said the Ligtas Pinoy Center Act mandates the establishment of fully equipped evacuation centers nationwide to provide secure, temporary accommodation to disaster-affected residents. Meanwhile, the Student Loan Payment Moratorium During Disasters and Emergency Act aims to provide financial relief to students and their families during and after calamities by suspending student loan collections without penalty and interest. On the other news, the Department of Justice or DOJ has announced the signing of practical agreements for the official transfer of Mary Jane Veloso, an OFW on death row in Indonesia, back to the country. DOJ spokesperson Assistant Secretary Miko Clavano shared the significant development, stating that the contents of the practical agreements will be shared by President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. in due time.
Senate President Francis Escudero believes that the enactment of the Student Loan Payment Moratorium During Disasters and Emergencies Act is timely. According to Escudero, the country frequently experiences weather disturbances that are significantly harmful and often affect many students. He stated that the new law adheres to the Filipino community spirit of Damayan and underscores government's obligation to ensure every child has access to education. Meanwhile, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian lauded the new law aimed at building permanent evacuation centers in all cities and municipalities across the country. According to Gatchalian, with the enactment of the Ligtas Pinoy Centers Act, a day will come when classrooms will no longer be needed to be used as evacuation centers. President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. and First Lady Liza Arneta Marcos received the original 1734 Murillo Velarde map at Malacañang Palace. President Marcos Jr. called it a powerful symbol of the Philippines' deep historical roots and national identity. He explained that the map, created by Spanish Jesuit Pedro Murillo Velarde with Filipino artists Francisco Suarez and Nicolas de la Cruz Bagay, shows not only the geography of the islands, but also the country's diverse cultures and peoples. The map, often called the mother of all Philippine maps, also played a key role in the Philippines' territorial claims, supporting the 2016 ruling by the Permanent Court of Arbitration that upheld the country's rights over the West Philippine Sea. It was acquired at the 2014 Sotheby auction by Mel Velasco Velarde and donated to the Philippine government. The map is considered the first scientific depiction of the Philippine archipelago. 187 POGO workers were deported back to China for violating immigration laws. They came from braided POGO hubs in Pasay, Cebu, Tarlac, and Pampanga. Some had no documents when caught. PAOK Executive Director Gilbert Cruz said they will be investigated in China for possible involvement in online scams. He also stated that in China, they are seen as criminals, not only victims. Originally, 190 workers were scheduled for deportation, but 3 were delayed due to paperwork issues. Today, 12 Indonesians are being sent back to Indonesia. Meanwhile, Dole is holding a job fair in Binyan City for displaced workers for POGO workers with 4,000 job openings, including positions for production operators, cashiers, and sales clerks.
As part of their efforts to further lower the price of rice in the country, the House Quinta Committee, also known as the Murang Pagkain Super Committee, is set to invite the top rice importers in the country to attend their next hearing. According to Overall Chair Joey Salceda, if the landed price of imported rice is considered, it should only be at 36 pesos per kilogram. They are investigating where the problems lie in order to address them. Before the year ends, they will also present recommendations to President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. to lower the prices of other food items. Salceda made this statement following the release of the latest inflation report for November, which he says is within target but could still be improved. The second hearing of the House Super Panel is scheduled for Tuesday, December 10. The latest Philippine Statistics Authority figures on unemployment are something to feel hopeful about and reason enough to even work harder for. PSA records show unemployment fell a substantial 0.8 of a percentage point in October from figures in July, which simply translate to 400,000 more Filipinos finding jobs between July to September, as our Rod Lagusad reports.
The Philippine Statistics Authority reported a decrease in the unemployment rate. Based on the data from the October 2024 Labor Force Survey, the unemployment rate dropped to 3.9% or 1.97 million compared to 4.7% or 2.38 million in July. From this number, the unemployment count went down by over 400,000. According to PSA National Statistician and Civil Registrar General Undersecretary Claire Dennis Mapa, the successive tropical cyclones impacted the number of unemployed. Notably, the number of employed people in the fishing and aquaculture industry dropped by 190,000.
Ang nakikita namin talaga itong mga bagyo. So siyempre, siguro cautious yung ating mga fisher folks na lumabas because of the storms. And nakikita namin yung typhoon talaga, medyo nag-contribute siya doon sa mga subsectors kung saan bumaba yung ating employed persons.
And because of the succession of tropical cyclones lasted until November, this trend could also be reflected in that month. The PSA hopes that by December, the situation will improve.
Kasi ang activities naman natin kasi sa Disyembre ay kadalasan yung mga retail trade, no? So doon, and accommodation and food service activities. So ang nakikita namin na mayroong pagtaas tayong makikita doon. So ganoon naman talaga dahil usually itong last quarters, October, November, December, in the past, talagang may pagtaas yan sa mga employed persons. But
in connection with this, the number of people with jobs also increased, with over 450,000 more people employed. From 47.7 million or 95.3% in July, it rose to 48.16 million or 96.1% in October. The industries of administrative and support service activities, accommodation and food service activities, transportation and storage, and construction have recorded a significant number of people who found employment. From PTV Manila, Rod Lagusad, Balitang Pambansa.
Coming right up, the NTF-ELCAC calls the impeachment complaint being pushed by the Makabayan bloc as political opportunism.
Consumers need to tighten their belts for unexpected rate hike in January. More stories when Balitang Pambansa returns.
Nagsimula ang Baklayng Multi-Purpose Cooperative sa pagiging isang tindahan. Sa paglipas ng panahon, sa tulong ng Department of Agrarian Reform or DAR at National Confederation of Cooperatives or NATCO, pinalawak ng barko ang kanilang saklaw upang isama ang mga serbisyo sa pag-iimpok at pagpapautang. Karagdagang suporta mula sa iba't ibang ahensya ng gobyerno ang nagbigay daan sa kooperatiba upang umunlad sa produksyon ng gatas ng baka at caravan.
Para sa Zamboanga del Sur, isang unit ng cargo truck.
Kinilala ng DAR ang potential ng barko at binigyan sila ng isang cargo truck sa ilalim ng Climate Resilient Farm Productivity Support Program. 31 proyekto ng mga makinarya at iba pang suporta ang naibahagi ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. noong ika-24 ng Mayo. 30 organisasyon rin ang makikinabang sa suportang inihandog ng Administrasyong Marcos. Nagpapahayag ang barko ng taus-pusong pasasalamat para sa walang patid na suporta ng DAR. At kinikilala nila si Pangulong Bongbong Marcos para sa kanyang dedikadong atensyon sa mga benepisyaryong magsasaka.
Daghang kaayong salamat, President Bongbong Marcos of DAR.
The National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict, or NTF-ELCAC, vowed to continue its mandate to address the insurgency problem despite criticisms from leftist groups. As the NTF-ELCAC celebrates its 6th anniversary, it revealed the continuing weakening of guerrilla fronts, noting that only 1 remains active, while 3 more are under verification following their reported dismantlement. The NTF-ELCAC stressed the crucial role it plays in government's efforts to achieve success in this endeavor. Meanwhile, the Armed Forces of the Philippines, or AFP, is intensifying operations against communist terrorist groups in response to President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s directive to completely eradicate insurgency.
We have 0 active guerrilla fronts already, only 4 weekend guerrilla fronts. So the last time I checked, recently, of the 4 remaining weekend guerrilla fronts, 3 are about to be declared for dismantling already.
The National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict, or NTF-ELCAC, called the impeachment push against Vice President Sara Duterte political opportunism. According to NTF-ELCAC, they support President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s statement that the impeachment against the Vice President should not proceed or prosper because it is a very divisive issue, not only in the best interests of the Filipinos. This response came after the Makabayan bloc statement, which suggested that the President is interfering with the impeachment filed in the House of Representatives.
We are merely expressing our opinion because of the concept of checks and balances. That is why we have this system of government. Kaya po kami nagsalita, kaya naglabas ng statement ng NTF-ELCAC, why we call the impeachment plan against VP Sara as political opportunism and as an attempt to create political mileage ahead of the 2025 elections.
Starting January next year, an additional electricity charge will be implemented following the approval of the Energy Regulatory Commission, or ERC, for the collection of this year's recalculated trading amounts. Consumers in Luzon and Visayas will pay an additional charge of 0.124 pesos per kilowatt hour, while those in Mindanao will be charged 0.033 pesos per kilowatt hour. These fees will be settled in installments within 3 to 6 months. This is because the ERC approved the collection of 70% of the recalculated trading amounts, or RTAs, for February and March of this year, amounting to 3.5 billion pesos if the collection begins in 2025, following compliance checks to be conducted.
The Pasko sa Sugbo and the Christmas tree lighting in Cebu City has officially launched. This is an annual Christmas tradition of the city's government for Cebuanos. Philippine Information Agency Central Visayas Hazel Gloria has more.
More than 1,000 Cebuanos witnessed the opening of the Pasko sa Sugbo and Christmas tree lighting at Fuente Ospeña Circle, a well-known landmark in Cebu City. This is an annual tradition staged by the Cebu City government and M. Loelier family for the Cebuanos. The 110-foot ML Christmas tree is adorned with colorful Christmas lights and decorations.
Ninot jud kay ni siya, ma'am, kay mao jud ni maka-create og banding sa with pamba. Pareha na mo kana banding ni sa mong family.
Kada siga sa 20 naagyon mi. Kada ato ganing wa madayon diri mi kusog ang uwan kami tanan. Kay ganahan ko akong mga anak na mao sa masunod nila ba.
Cebu City Mayor Raymond Alvin Garcia and the President and CEO of M. Loelier Financial Services Incorporated, Michelle Loelier, led the launching ceremony.
Para sa Cebu City, ang Pasko manggod is the most festive of all seasons. And Christmas brings out the smile in everybody, especially the children. And there is always hope when you talk about Christmas. So why don't spread it throughout our city?
Visitors can now also enjoy the Youth Food Fair at M. Loelier Christmas Village.
From the Philippine Information Agency, Central Visayas, Hazel Gloria, Balitang Pambansa.
Meanwhile, Christmas cheer is lighting up Eastern Visayas as local government units open Christmas villages in public plazas, turning these spaces into festive wonderlands that attract both locals and tourists. Philippine Information Agency Eastern Visayas, Alet Reyes, has the full report.
Christmas villages are starting to open one by one in many different towns in eastern Visayas, transforming public plazas into Christmas wonderlands and becoming a beloved holiday attraction both for locals and tourists alike. As these dazzling lights, themed displays, and lively holiday spirit abound in many different areas, Tourism 8 Regional Director Karina Rosa Chopes said this is the time of the year that the festivities both provide entertainment for the people and steer local economy.
Isa ito sa mga hinihintay ng mga tao na season of the year. Kasi nagiging tradisyon na rin natin na tuwing Pasko, namamasyal tayo, pumupunta tayo sa iba't ibang bayan, tinitingnan natin kung gaano ka-ganda at kasaya yung celebration nila doon. And in that manner, pagdating natin doon, meron doon makikita natin syempre, nagbebenta ng pagkain, nagbebenta ng mga pasalubong items. So, in our own small way, nakakapag-generate din tayo ng livelihood during that particular period.
In light of President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s earlier pronouncement to tone down this year's Christmas celebration to sympathize with those affected by the recent typhoon, Director Chopes said the LGUs in the region have managed to strategize their efforts to make this Christmas wonders still colorful and attractive.
From the Philippine Information Agency, Eastern Visayas, Ulat Bayan, Balitang Pambansa.
More Christmas news. The theme of Davao's annual tradition of Pasko Fiesta has been unveiled. Parks and halls of the grounds of the city are now transformed. Philippine Information Agency Davao Region's Rudolph Alama has the details.
3, 2, 1.
With the opening of this year's Davao Pasko Fiesta, the Davao City Hall grounds including Quezon Park and Rizal Park, located in the heart of Davao City, was transformed into an enchanted woodland.
Ang concept natin is Woodland Enchanted Christmas in the heart of the city. Ang color is blue, gold with a touch of orange.
In the enchanted woodland Christmas lights display, one can see the centerpiece Christmas tree, the Christmas paroles, the gift boxes, and the reindeers placed along the park. The switching on of the Christmas lights display signals the opening of the annual Davao Pasko Fiesta, a citywide month-long festivity that celebrates the spirit of Christmas.
This year, more than the lights and decorations, Pasko Fiesta celebrates the resilience and unity of the Dabueño community. Together, we have faced uncertainties, weathered challenges, and emerged stronger than ever.
Aside from the City Hall, the various parks and public spaces of the city will play host to the various events and activities of the Davao Pasko Fiesta. From PIA Davao Region, Rudolph Alama for Balitang Pambansa.
For our weather update, Pag-asa reports that the shear line continues to bring scattered rain showers and thunderstorms to parts of northern and central Luzon, particularly over Cagayan Valley, Aurora, and Quezon. Residents in these areas should be cautious of heavy rainfall that may cause flash floods or landslides. The northeast monsoon or amihan is affecting northern Luzon, bringing cooler temperatures and light rains, especially in the Ilocos region, the Cordillera Administrative Region, and portions of Cagayan Valley. While rains are generally light, they can still disrupt daily activities. Localized thunderstorms are forecast over the rest of the country, including Metro Manila. These weather disturbances are expected mostly in the afternoon or evening, bringing short but heavy downpours. A gale warning remains in effect for the northern seaboard of Luzon due to strong winds brought by the northeast monsoon. Fisherfolk and small sea craft are advised to avoid sailing in these areas. Stay updated on weather advisories and take necessary precautions.
And of course, before we end tonight's program, in behalf of all the hardworking men and women of Balitang Pambansa, we would like to greet PCO Secretary Cesar Chavez. Happy birthday, sir! Happy birthday! And that concludes our rundown of the latest, widest, and most comprehensive news and information from all across the nation. From Radyo Pilipinas, I'm Joe Fernandez.
This is your trusted news source, always ready to inform and serve the Filipino people. Catch Balitang Pambansa again next week at 7 a.m., 12 noon, 6 p.m., and 9:30 p.m. for more updates and developments. This is Balitang Pambansa.